Our first keynote address reflects on why is ideological hate threatening our world? How can true religions usher in peace? The speaker is Dr. Mostaffa Qazwini, President, Shia Muslim Council of Southern California, founding Imam, Islamic Educational Center of Orange County. And the moderator of our two morning addresses is Norm Hoferker. So welcome, Dr. Qazwini.
Good morning. As your moderator for the first keynote of the day, I wanted to say good morning. My name is Norm Hoferker. I'm the minister of the Universalist Unitarian Church in Halifax. I was going to do an introduction of Dr. Qazwini, but I refer you to the material that's in the program. But I will say I did go to Google, I think like everyone else does in this day and age. And I also wanted to get in touch with my friend Julian Assange, but unfortunately his email was out of service today, so I couldn't get the latest information. Sorry about that. I wanted to noted in meeting a doctor this morning that this is his first visit to Nova Scotia, and I wanted to welcome Dr. Qazwini to Mi'kmaq, or Mi'kmaq territory, or Mi'kmaqi, the land of the Mi'kmaq. It's a land that cries out to us to find a way to heal wounds between people, for it was here, like so many places in the world, where wounds that were often justified on the basis of the superiority of one religion, one religious faith over another. So this morning, may your words help us to find that way. I give you Dr. Qazwini.
Good morning. Peace be upon you. Assalamu alaikum. Let me tell you how much I am thrilled this morning to touch down at Halifax and see the rain coming from drought-stricken California, Southern California. Probably you take this for granted, but we really are thirsty for some drops from the sky, which brings really not only greenery and green vegetation, but brings hope also. So thank you for hosting me. Thanks to the One World, One Humanity and the Spiritual Diversity Conference, and to Mount St. Vincent University for hosting us, and also to Rasul Islamic Society under the leadership of my honorable friend and brother Talib Abd Ali, who's working very hard since he arrived into this beautiful city in 1992 to make it a better place for all of us, a more peaceful place. So we thank him for sponsoring this conference, and also thank you to the convener, my brother Robin Arthur, who were chasing me all the time, asking for the abstract and the paper. So thanks to all of you. And I am also very excited to see one of my mentors and teachers, Dr. Jamal Badawi, here sitting in this beautiful hall. So I welcome him, and I'm very delighted to see him. So the title of my presentation is, Why is Ideological Hate Threatening the World? How can true religions usher in peace? These ideologies of hate have existed, unfortunately, throughout history and continue to do so. Many in the name of God and religion. And we have many examples of that in the Jewish tradition, in the Christian tradition, in the Islamic tradition. We can name many of these groups In the Christian tradition, we have the Christian identity, we have the neo-Confederate, we have the neo-Nazi, and in the Muslim tradition, we have many radicals today. You hear about ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Shabab, Boko Haram, and many others. In the Jewish tradition, they have the Jewish Defense League. They all speak in the name of God, in the name of their prophets and their religions, but they espouse violence and hate towards others, not just towards other religions and other doctrines, but sometimes towards their brethren. For example, ISIS have killed more Muslims than non-Muslims in Syria, in Iraq, in Asia, in Africa, in other places. And these ideologies are man-made, human-made, far removed from God and the Spirit of God. And many of them, they used to promote political agendas. There is politics behind that. It's not just religion. Many of them, they aspire to dominate, to grab power, and they have political agendas that are based on domination, exploitation, and conflict, neither employed to save nor to serve humanity. And true religions, true faiths, those that stem from divine inspiration, are based on universal values of mercy, love, cooperation for the benefit of all, and service to humanity. God is one God, and God is like a big father who has many children, and those children, they have different, orientations, political affiliations, different professions, but at the end of the day, they go back to the same God. And this God is the source of love, compassion, and forgiveness. And humans have been created according to Christian and the Jewish doctrines in the image of God, and according to the Islamic doctrine, they have been created as vicegerents of God. In the first chapter of the Holy Quran, when you read, the second chapter of the Holy Quran, God tells the angels that I'm going to create a human being. They say, why? Why do you create a human being? He says, I want to place a vicegerent on earth. I need to have a representative on earth. Earth without a representative has no value, has no worth. So I am going to create humans to be my representatives on earth. So we have a big responsibility. And we have a tradition, Islamic tradition, that says God is talking to us. He's telling us that I have created everything in this universe for your sake, for the sake of your prosperity, your peace, and your happiness. I created the entire universe. And I created you for me. I created everything for you, but I created you for me. I want you to be my vicegerent. I want you to be my representative on earth, to build this earth with peace and compassion. So we see the golden rules that you have them here on this pamphlet here at the back. These are found in almost every religion, every divine or divinely inspired religion. You find the golden rule, which is to treat others as you'd like to be treated. This sentence You can find it almost in every religion. In every religion. In Arabic, we have it by the Prophet Muhammad. He says, أحبب لأخيك ما تحبه لنفسك. Love and wish for your brethren what you wish and love for yourself. And dislike for him or her what you dislike for yourself. If we just imply this one and practice this one, incorporate this golden rules in our life, believe me, not just Halifax, the entire earth is going to be a much more peaceful place, a better place. We are not going to see any fightings, any conflicts. When we love for others, what we love for our own selves. When we hate for them, what we hate for our own selves. These rules are found in every religion. We hear them, we talk about them, but we seldom practice them. So, we come to Islam. In Islam, there is no gender, ethnic, racial discrimination or preference. There is a common misconception that in Islam, men are number 1 and women are number 5, not even number 2. But this is not true. If you read the Holy Quran and if you follow the tradition of the messenger of Islam, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, you would never find any gender preference. Nowhere the Holy Quran suggests, excuse me, that men are superior to women or male are superior to female. Nowhere. Yes, the Holy Quran says the male, the husband, the father has more responsibility than the wife. More responsibility. In terms of responsibility, he is more responsible because he is the one who initiates the family. He's the one who begins the family. So he has more responsibilities, but not more privileges. This is very important. He does not have more privileges. He has more responsibilities, and this is found in chapter 4, which is called Women. This chapter is named after women, An-Nisa. الرجال قوامون على النساء. Men have more responsibility than their wives, than women. The Holy Quran states, humankind, we have created you, and he is addressing the entire humankind, not just the Muslims, not just those who believe in God or Muhammad. He's addressing the entire humankind. We have created you from a single pair of male and female and made you into nations and tribes so that you may recognize one another. Recognize. Very beautiful. لِتَعَارَفُوا. Recognize. Not to fight. Not to compete. Not to race in a bad way. But to recognize. And this is exactly what we are doing this morning. We are recognizing each other. We are trying to learn from each other. This is the spirit of all religions, not just Islam. This is the spirit of true Judaism, true Christianity, true Islam, and other religions too, to recognize each other. So, verily, the most honorable in the sight of God is the most righteous among you. God has full knowledge and is well acquainted with all things. Who is the most honorable in this life? The one who lives in this zip code, in this city, the one who comes from this family, or the one who has this much money? No. No, these things in the eyes of God, these things are irrelevant. There is only one criteria for preference, and that is piety and righteousness and responsibility. The more responsible you are, the more committed you are to the cause of God and humanity, the more serving, the more dedicated you are, the more honorable you become in the eyes of God. Period. Muhammad came to a society that was based on race. Mecca, in Arabian Peninsula. And he comes from a family, Quraysh, that was had prejudice. And it had pride and discrimination. And they saw themselves the best race, the best tribe, the best family. But Muhammad stood and he said, there is no difference between Arab and non-Arab save for piety and righteousness. Muhammad says, I'm an Arab, but my race means nothing. When I stand with others, I'm equal. It happened that the Quran came in the Arabic language, but it did not come only for the Arabs. Just like the Bible, the Old Testament, the New Testament that came in Hebrew, in other languages, but it is not addressing only the Hebrew people or those who speak Aramaic or this language or that language. The language of the Quran is universal. The meaning of the Quran is universal. Sometimes when I want to enjoy the Quran more, I'm an Arab. I am born in an Arab family, and I am between me and Prophet Muhammad is 42 generations. I have the family tree in my room, in my living room. I look at it every morning to remind myself that I have to learn from Muhammad. I am his descendant. I have to carry his message, which is based on love and compassion and respect for others, wherever I go. So, Muhammad said, I'm an Arab, but I'm equal with other races and other languages. There is no superiority in Islam for a race over another. God would never discriminate. Look at yourself. If you are a father and you have 5 kids, you would never discriminate between them. You would never. Always my mother, who is 75 years old, and she delivered 9 children, sometimes I tease my mother. I tell her, am I your favorite son? She says, yes, I love you, Mostaffa, but you are all equal in my eyes. 9 of you are equal. I can't say, Ali, your brother, is superior to you, or Hussein, who's the last one, the youngest one, is dearer to me. You are all equal. So imagine if we, the human being, if me as a father, I cannot discriminate among my children, how can God discriminate? He would never do that. God would never send a religion that discriminates. It is us, we the humans, who discriminate, not God. Moses would never discriminate. Jesus would never discriminate. Muhammad would never discriminate. We are the one who do that. So, Quran stands with those who stand with justice and righteousness, whoever they may be. When you follow the Quran, some people say, why do we have verses that, attack Jews or Christians in the Quran? It's not about Jews or Christians. We have verses that attack Muslims and Arabs in the Holy Quran. Quran says, when you move forward, straightforward, when you are honest, then I would love you. I don't care what you believe in. If you don't move forward, if you are dishonest, then I would not respect you even if you belong to the family of Muhammad. Even if you call yourself Muslim. I would not respect you. Islam respects justice, peace, righteousness. So whoever is associated with these principles is respected in Islam. Whoever is not associated with these values and responsibilities is not respected. Even if he or she would call themselves Muslims or Mohammedans or the followers of this religion. The Holy Quran stands against those who stand against justice and goodness, whoever they may be. We reach out to them. For me, my brother Imam Ali, one of the successors to Prophet Muhammad, has a beautiful saying. He says, الناس صنفان إما أخ لك في الدين أو نظير لك في الخلق. This entire creation are of two types. Either they are your brethren in faith, it means they share the faith with you. If they don't share the faith, they are your equal in creation. They are your equal in creation. So you must love them as well and take care of them. This is how we perceive a humanity. This is how I learn to love others. Even if they don't share the same God with me, the same book, the same prayers, they share the value of a humanity which supersedes any other value. We are human. We subscribe to one family, to one club, to one order. And that is a humanity. And that suffices us to get together for one cause and not be divided. Quran has a universal outlook. Any critical verses in the Quran or verse in the Quran are directed towards aggressors and criminals, not specific groups. Yes, we do. If you open the Quran, you see some criticism. You see some threats. Yes. Some people say, why God is angry? God's supposed to say nothing but love, 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 love. It's true. Look at yourself. You have children and you love your children. Sometimes your children, they do good, you embrace them. Sometimes you warn them. You alert them. Sometimes you have to be serious in your talk. When a mother gets serious with her son who's not doing his homework, does that mean she does not love him? She does. Because she loves him, she becomes serious with him sometimes. Because she loves him. God is using the same language. God is warning us times after times, guiding us, reaching out to us. But when you come to some people who insist on falsehood, they insist on wrongdoing, they insist on injustice and terrorism, they terrorize others. Do you expect God to keep telling them, I love you till the end, even if you murder? No. Unfortunately, I would not agree with that. God has to warn them. God would say to them, listen, even after 50 years, 70 years, you decide to change course and come back to me, I am forgiving. I'm not the God of hatred. I'm the God of forgiveness. So I'm forgiving. I would embrace you. I would hold you in my arms. But you must come back to me. You must give up injustice. You must give up aggression. Islam respects religious differences and calls for commonality. Look at this in chapter 3, Al-Imran, the family of Imran, which is the family of Jesus and Mary, peace be upon them. This is one of the most interesting chapters in the Holy Quran. If you want to know the relationship between Islam and Christianity, this is one of the chapters, chapter 3, Al-Imran. He says in this chapter, verse 64, O Muhammad, say, O people of the book, Ya Ahl al-Kitab, come to a common terms between us and you, that we worship none but God, that we associate no partners with Him, that we erect not from amongst ourselves lords and patrons other than God. We have to submit to God. The boss, real boss is God. This is why the Muslims, one of the gestures in our prayers is sujood, where we put prostration. We put the forehead on the floor, on the ground. Meaning, it's very meaningful. It says, I would never surrender to anyone but God, to my real boss, my real creator, the merciful, the cherisher, the sustainer, the one that I am accountable before Him only. Before I am accountable before the government, and the premier and the mayor, I am accountable before God. I have to report back to him. There is a day of resurrection where I stand before him and he's going to ask me about everything I said and everything I did. So we should not take any patrons, any lords beside him. We should only worship him and do not divide our loyalties. This is the concept, this is the spirit of Islam. The spirit of Islam is monotheism, tawheed, the unity of God. We worship nothing but him. Yes, we love Jesus, but we don't worship Jesus. We love Muhammad, we don't worship him. We love Moses, we don't worship him. They are messengers of God. They are people that God trusted with his message, with his scriptures. And he sent them to us to be a role model, not just messengers, but role models, to show us the way. They are examples. We don't worship them. We respect them. The difference, today one of the biggest differences between Shia Islam and Sunni Islam is that not all Sunnis, the Wahhabi tradition, believes that the Shias, they worship Ali or Hassan or Hussein or those. No, this is wrong. We worship God and nothing but God. But we respect Ali. We respect Muhammad. We respect Fatima. We respect Hussein. Hussein, his anniversary just passed a week ago. And I celebrated that 10 nights in here neighboring Toronto for 10 nights. It's called Ashura. It's an occasion where Hussein rose against tyranny and dictatorship and terrorism. Terrorism that hijacked Islam 50 years after Muhammad. It brought a dynasty, a family that corrupted Islam and corrupted the Muslim society. So Hussein, the grandson of Muhammad, he took it upon himself. I have to give my blood. The only language the tyrant understands is my blood. And he gave his blood. And he freed Islam from captivity, from slavery, from dictatorship. He brought dignity and freedom back to Islam. So we celebrate him. Definitely we celebrate him. We love Hussein because of his act, because of his martyrdom. But we don't worship him. We do not worship a human being. We worship God. We worship God. God has agents on earth. One agent is called Abraham. Another agent is called Moses. Another agent is called Jesus. Another one called Muhammad. Another one called Hussein. Those are agents. You could be an agent. Robin could be an agent, not to the FBI, of course, to God. Yeah, definitely. We are God's agent. You can be in your neighborhood, in the streets that you live in, representing God in your manners, in your love, in inviting people to do good. And this is exactly what the Holy Quran said in chapter 2. إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. I'm appointing agents on earth, vicegerents. You are my agent. You work for me. So you don't have to wear a black turban like me to be an agent of God. We are all agents. We are all agents. And we will be accountable before God on the day of judgment. He will ask me and ask you, you lived on earth for 50 years, 70 years, 90 years. What did you do? How many people you saved? The Holy Quran teaches us that God said to the children of Israel, Bani Israel, من أجل ذلك كتبنا على بني إسرائيل أنه من قتل نفسا بغير نفس أو فساد في الأرض فكأنما قتل الناس جميعا ومن أحياها فكأنما أحيا الناس جميعا. We said to the children of Israel that if you murder an innocent soul, one single soul, for no reason, it means you have murdered the entire humanity. And if you save one single soul, it means that you have saved the entire humanity. Imagine if you save one soul. You don't have to save 7 billion, one single soul. It could be a family member, it could be a stranger, it could be here in Canada, it could be elsewhere. You have saved the value of that in the eyes of God is saving the entire humanity. So we have this big responsibility. Although Islam considers itself the final version of God's message to humankind, yet at the same time also recognizes and provides freedom of religion and worship to all religious traditions. When Muhammad was ruling in Medina, not just the messenger of God, but he was also like the governor of Medina. At the very same time, there were Jews in Medina and Christians in Medina worshiping side by side. He did not dominate them. He didn't. He gave them a freedom of worship. The very first dialogue between Muhammad and the Christians took place in his mosque. They came from a province of Najran, which is in Yemen today. And this province is being hit by F-16s of Saudi Arabia. Now, right now, every single day. This was a Christian province. So they heard about Muhammad and his new religion. They traveled all the way from the southern tip of the Arabian Peninsula. They came north to Medina. They sat with him in his mosque. The first thing he did to them, he opened his mosque for them to worship, to do their Christian prayers in his mosque. He said, "You are welcome." And they sat with him for 3 days, dialoguing, talking about the identity of Jesus. Muhammad said to them, Jesus is not the Lord. He is the messenger of the Lord. Lord is incomparable. Lord has no image. We cannot confine him in a human shape, in a human body. We can't. God is eminent but transcendent. Transcendent. If you confine him in a human shape, it means God is here in this room, so he's not in that room. And that contradicts the very principle of God being everywhere. So, 3 days of dialogue. He did not persecute them. He respected them. He was very hospitable to them. And this is how we follow Muhammad. We follow our example. We don't follow Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the leader of ISIS. We follow Muhammad ibn Abdullah, the messenger of God. So, Quran says, let there be no compulsion in religion. Let him who will believe and let him who will reject. فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ وَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. Freedom of religion. We cannot compel people to follow certain tradition. You can't compel your daughter, your son, to follow certain doctrine. Yes, you may encourage, you may facilitate, but you can't force. You can't force even your children to follow your own religion. You can educate them, you can guide them, but no compulsion. No compulsion. Why? Because when someone follows out of compulsion and force, his or her faith would have no value. Would have no value. The most thing I love about Canada and America is the freedom of religion. Since I touched down in Los Angeles in 1994 until now, which is October 2016, I never received any order from any government agent that, oh, Imam Qazwini, you have to say this, you can't say that. I never. I love religion. I love freedom of religion. But I did not find this in the Middle East. You know why many people are fleeing the Middle East? Not because the weather is bad, not because there is shortages of food or drink, but because there is no dignity and no freedom of religion, no freedom of expression. They have mosques, plenty of mosques, They go to the prayers 5 times a day, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. They pray 5 times a day. They fast 30 days of Ramadan. But there is no freedom of religion. You are under surveillance. You are persecuted because of your religious views and religious identity, against the principles of the Quran and against the tradition of Muhammad, peace be upon him. Muslims are Muslims by name, not by character. Muslim governments are just Muslims by name, not character. Today, Muslims, they export the highest number of refugees in the world. The highest number of refugees in the world, they come from Muslim countries. Refugees from Iraq, Syria, Yemen, other countries, they fled their land, and their brethren in Saudi Arabia and other countries, they did not receive them. They had to travel through the dangerous waters of the Mediterranean, and many of them, they died, they drowned in the Mediterranean. They tried to find some refuge in Europe, not in Muslim countries. This is a disaster. This is a shame on Muslim governments today, Muslim rulers. This is why we have ISIS. One of the reasons we have ISIS, the bad ISIS, the terrorist ISIS, because many of the Muslim youths are frustrated with their governments, with their rulers. So rather than going and building themselves, they join terrorist organizations. They don't know what to do. They lost direction, unfortunately. They are brainwashed. Some evil people like Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, they exploit their feelings. They exploit their frustration. They tell them, come and join me. Let's fight America. Let's fight Europe. Let's fight this country. Rather than telling them, well, let's get together and rebuild ourselves and see where is the wrong and try to change it through democracy. Did I exceed my time? Listen, I'm a preacher. I can go for 5 hours non-stop, believe me. So what time is it now? 20 minutes. I'd love to leave a few minutes for to entertain some, feedback, some questions if you have. Definitely you're going to have some. So, to you be your faith, and to me be mine. These are some of the examples of religious freedom in the Holy Quran. Now, some verses in the Quran appear to encourage a sense of Islamic superiority over and hostility towards other religious communities. There are those who have used these as evidence for Islam's intolerance and hostility towards others. However, most of our ulama, scholars and experts in Islamic studies and the Holy Quran agree that such verses were revealed in relation to a specific set of non-Muslims who were hostile to Muslims at that time, at the time of the revelation of these verses, at the time of Muhammad. Those non-Muslims who violated treaties with Muslims because they violated the treaties. So these are not directed against all non-Muslims. Yes, we do have, and I mentioned example of that in my interview with the radio this morning. We do. In the Holy Quran, we have some verses that sounds troubling. In the Bible, we have some verses that sounds troubling. In the Old Testament, we have some verses that are troubling. How do you translate this? How do you read them? We read them within their textual and historical context. We don't get them out. We read them within the historical context. We have to dig and see what happened, why God is talking like that. So we have to find out. There were some skirmishes, misunderstandings, conflicts between Muslims and non-Muslims. They had some treaties, they signed some treaties. Some non-Muslims, not all of them, they violated them. So God says those who violate, you have to hold them accountable, period. We always say that Islam is in the middle between Judaism and Christianity. Judaism was very strict. Eye for eye, okay? Tooth for tooth, whatever for whatever. Christianity came, said total forgiveness. If someone strikes you, slaps you on your right cheek, turn the left one. Islam is in the middle. Islam says you can retaliate. You may retaliate. Don't turn the left cheek for him because you're going to encourage him to do more injustice. So don't do that. You have the right to retaliate and be strict, but if it is a personal issue, then you may forgive. وَإِن تَعْفُوا أَقْرَبُ لِلتَّقْوَى. If you forgive, it's closer to piety and righteousness. If it is your own personal right, you may forgive. But if someone attacks the city of Halifax and terrorizes hundreds of thousands of people, do I have the right to forgive him? No. This is not my personal life. This is not my personal right. Personal right, if he attacks me personally, I may forgive him. Some people said, why Muslims do not forgive Osama bin Laden? Because Osama bin Laden terrorized hundreds of thousands of innocents worldwide. We cannot forgive him. We have to hold him accountable. If we tell him, listen, God is very loving and caring and forgiving, so we will set you free, we will turn this life into havoc, into lawlessness and anarchy. So we have sometimes to uphold some people accountable. I think I'm going to skip. I'll make you happy by skipping some pages, you know. So, and we will, yeah. So, what you see in the media, unfortunately, you see ISIS speaking in the name of Islam, not the moderate ones. Why? Not because we don't have people like Jamal Badawi. We do have them, and he's always traveling. He's always coming to America, you know, and enlightening communities left and right. But because media sometimes they love to listen to those who are radicals, believe me, to those who are crazy, to those who to those who threaten others. This is the type of the media that we have today, because they are louder. They make the news. We've been told that if a dog bites a human being, it's not a news. But if a human being bites a dog, it's a news. You hear it everywhere. So this is how you hear about, you know, Islamic radicalism. Not because we don't have good people like Jamal and others who are preaching goodness. Not because we don't have good Muslim communities, peaceful communities. We do. We do. In your backyard here in Halifax, elsewhere in Canada, in America, we have many Muslims who came to this country to contribute, to give, to donate, to build. One of them is Talib. He's sitting right in front of me. He's building many projects in this city, in this beautiful city. So he came not just to take, but to give. To give. But you don't hear about them. Why? Because the media, they don't want you to know about them. They have an agenda. I would stop here, my friends. The rest of it, probably you can, you know, see it when these papers are published. So thank you for listening to me. And I would leave a few minutes for feedbacks and comments. So feel free to criticize me if you want to. Thank you so much.
Yes, please stay here. Please stay here. And you've done this before, I think. This one? I think you've fielded questions before after a talk. Yes. So I think I'll allow you to select a person. We have a limited amount of time. So we need to bear that in mind. As a moderator, I'd like to offer an opening question, if I may. So we sensed your passion, and that's when your talk is the most interesting, when we can feel your passion. But passion often gets in the way of peace. Your talk was titled, True Religion, Can True Religion Usher in Peace? I'd like to ask your opinion on, and in Canada, this is a more and more growing issue. What about those who have no belief in God? Can you sustain a passion for mercy and love and compassion and justice and forgiveness without a belief in God?
Yeah. Thank you for this question. Yeah, I mentioned earlier the saying of Imam Ali, that either people that they share their belief with you in God, okay? If they don't believe in God, they are humans. So they are your counterpart. They are your equal. You are not superior to them. God is the only judge in this universe. And God has the right to judge us, not us. We don't judge each other. And this is why one of the names and titles of God, Maliki Yawmiddin, the superior judge of the day of judgment. It's good that I am not the superior judge there, believe me. Neither any one of us. God is the superior judge. So even if they don't believe in God, they are humans. We treat them as a human being, as equals to us. We don't look down at them. This is their choice. Their choice is not to believe in God. It's okay. As long as, and this was the policy of Muhammad himself, as long as they do not threat his community, as long as they do not plot against him, his policy is leave them alone. Leave them alone. You are free. God says, we have given him the brain. أَلَمْ نَجْعَلْ لَهُ عَيْنَيْن وَلِسَانًا وَشَفَتَيْن وَهَدَيْنَاهُ النَّجْدَيْن. We have created man, we have given him the brain, eyes, intelligence, and we showed him both ways, the good one and the bad one, and we left the choice for him. So this is their choice. We cannot force them to believe in God. God does not like this. God does not want anyone to force anyone else to believe in God. God wants us to reach him through our own free will and intelligence. Yes, please.
Welcome, my brother. Thank you. You gave a beautiful speech, but you did something nice for the community too, by extending recognition to one of the pillars of the community, Dr. Badawi. Absolutely. Dr. Badawi has worked consistently for years and years in communities and all through the planet for harmony, peace, and love. My comment is, I really like what you said. It's nice to open up with you personally. This is the first time I've heard you. This is the first time I've seen you focus so nicely. My teacher in India says something very nice for this conference. There is only one religion, the religion of love.
Absolutely.
There is only one language, the language of the heart. There is only one caste, the caste of humanity. There is only one God, and he is omnipresent. So we say, religion then, all religions are facets of one truth. And you said that beautifully. And that one truth is love is the highest truth. And love is the building block of the universe. So Einstein made a statement. The mutual attraction of the planets, the law of gravitation. He says, do not blame the law of gravitation for falling in love. Thank you. I think the language of love, even in the heart of the terrorists you mentioned that, is a beautiful commentary of the sublime attribute of God, which is pure love. Thank you for declaring that openly and cogently and lucidly.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another question.
Please, sister. Yes, sister.
Thank you so much. Actually, I'm from Sinna, and most of my friends are Shia. And I like what all the speech that you gave. And I thank you for everything that you said about Islam. But I just have a comment. I see negative stereotypes, excuse me, against Saudi Arabia, which is, you repeated it twice. And you talk also about media. In the same time, you present a media now. You present ideas to all these people. When you talk about refugees, and you said that most of the countries in the Middle East didn't receive those refugees. Media doesn't know that Saudi Arabia received in 2015 2.5 million just Syrian refugees. And they give them all different things in Saudi Arabia. They didn't give it to us as a Saudi. They give us the highest scholarship in Saudi Arabia. And you can search about that. You are educated enough to know. So I just want to add that to you, and I'm not against you at all. Maybe you didn't know about that, but it's a good idea to search about some information before we generate the idea. Another point is about Wahhabiyya. We don't have that belief about Shia, believe me. Don't generate any idea about Wahhabiyya, and I don't like to say Wahhabiyya. I'm Sunnah, and I respect you, and this is what I wanted to say. Just don't generate, please, idea, because the idea of this conference is spreading the positive stereotypes about all religions and countries and cultures, and not negative stereotypes, please. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your views. I respect you, but I said what I said out of experience. I've been to Saudi Arabia more than 40 times. The first time I've been there, I was 5 years old. I went to pilgrimage, and I've been going every year, except this year. I did not go because I didn't feel I can go to a country where they are bombing their brothers and sisters in Yemen. So I stopped going. But I went there and I had dialogue with their scholars. Always when I go there, I have dialogue. And what I said earlier, I stand firm by it because this is my personal experience, not from the media, believe me. I was born in Iraq, but I've been to Saudi Arabia more than Iraq, my native land. Thank you.
Thank you. I think this question speaks to what you had talked about when our politics and our spirituality intersect. And I think the purpose of the assembly today is to discuss our spirituality and how that can save us in the world. Maybe one more question before we take a brief break.
Thank you. Really loved your speech, by the way. Really moved me. But I just have a question on what you said about worship. So you said that, yeah, Muslims, like Islam, they worship God. And, you know, Christians, they worship Jesus Christ and all that. So my question is, you know, the word worship itself, you know, in Islam, in Christianity, Judaism, is based off, you know, individuals like, you know, Jesus Christ, Muhammad. So we actually base each religion, I find that each religion bases it off individuals' teachings. You know, Jesus Christ teaches, you know, the Christian people who worship a certain way, and Muslims to worship a certain way. So isn't that the same thing, you know, like practicing religion based off what one man believes? So Jesus Christ, Islam. I hope I'm making sense to you.
I think we share the same God, the same principle of worshiping the same God. However, the ways and the methods of our worshiping is different. the ways and the methods. Even if you ask a Christian, who do you worship? He says, I worship God. But God in the form of Jesus Christ. This is the difference. For the Muslims, you ask them, who do you worship? They say, we worship God. What is his form and shape? He doesn't have form or shape. We repeat always this, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ in our prayers, Allahu Samad. Okay, God is unique. Ahad means he's unique. He doesn't have any similarity. You cannot compare him to human being. This is why God in Islam does not have a picture. He does not have a statue. Okay? He's transcendent. He's eminent, but he's transcendent. So we worship the one that we don't see him with our eyes, but we feel him with our hearts. He's in our hearts. Okay? I cannot hear you. Maybe after the session we would discuss this. Yeah. My time is over.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being patient.
Thank you all, and I apologize for how tight the schedule is, but it's always good to leave people wanting more, and we would definitely like to hear more, and you'll have an opportunity to speak to all the speakers during the conference.